you're a scientist, you're a medical doctor, you're a world-renowned scientist. And you said in your talk that you are an admirer of, for example, Ayn Rand's objectivism. But then you said something else that really struck me. You said when you're struggling with why the people who are doing all this are doing it, and you said at bottom you couldn't find a better explanation than evil. And I thought that was very strange because evil, I think we can agree, is a spiritual, perhaps a
Yeah,
metaphysical concept that
yeah,
can't be reduced to science, can't be explained scientifically.
yeah.
And so I'm curious about that because to someone who, for example, I'm a Christian, the concept of evil has a very specific meaning.
Yes,
We
absolutely.
we recognize its source, but how do you reconcile all of that? I mean, you must be struggling with this because obviously you're a
So
very
we have a
scientific
whole
person,
chapter. We have a chapter in the book about scientism,
right?
which is kind of gets directly at this, that this new religion we assert, with a government that is supposed to have a separation between church and state. The new religion, in the context of rejecting any religious influence at all, which is not what the founders intended,
Right.
uh, in terms of morality or anything else. But I historically, I would never use a term like evil in
Right.
discussing matters. But I've come a long way over the last 4 years, and it's. I find it, the way I address this, I find it increasingly difficult to discuss what one observes occurring in the world without resorting to the language of theology, particularly Judeo-Christian theology, because we don't have a language for these things that I believe, and I think that's probably aligned with some theological positions. There are certain aspects of humankind, human behavior, human community behavior, the human soul, that reflect a duality. Let's say it goes back to Adam and Eve and the
Right.
Garden of Eden,
Right.
a duality of good and evil. At the core of that, we can all recognize that there are evil things. And we can use modern psychological labeling and call these sociopaths or psychopaths, or we can work around these different words, but it comes down to there's evil. And by the way, that implies that there's also good, and that is important in kind of thinking through how we go forward
Mm-hmm.
in the choices that we all confront as we move forward through time,
Yeah.
and these challenging times that we're encountering. Is we do have a fundamental choice about aligning ourselves with good or aligning ourselves with these more evil forces. And
Right.
I don't have any other language to adequately express what I observe. So these philosophical questions are kind of central to me, and I have the benefit of 45 years of marriage and 50 years of close association, gently put, with a woman who was a biological anthropology trained.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about her role because this book is a collaboration with your wife Jill.
Absolutely.
So yeah, maybe if you
And
could just describe a
so
little bit
so
her
our
role and
morning discussions range. It's we wake up in the morning, feed the dogs, have a coffee, and start discussing what's going to be today's Substack, and who's going to write it. And what do you think about this idea or that idea? It's just the way our lives are.
yeah,
And some poor soul gets to write the Substack between 8 in the morning and noon. So
that must be joyful to be able to share this work and this experience that you're doing with your
it,
wife.
it is so when if we were to get into, if you were to ask me the question, how did you survive this and survive the stuff that's been thrown at you? Which a lot of it's been pretty harsh, but nowhere near as harsh as what Donald Trump has experienced, and to a lesser extent, Bobby Kennedy and Nicole Shanahan. I mean, and the other day I was on with Russell Brand, and we were talking, and I pointed out to him he's been subjected to it. He
He certainly
was a
has.
recipient of the the wrap-up smear.
Yeah.
Um, and it just drove home the point that so many of us that have been outspoken uh, nonconformist free thinkers have been subjected to this modern propaganda, censorship, and Psywar technology in all of
Yeah.
its flourishing, but none in the to the level that Donald Trump has, combined with the lawfare. That's just been over the top. But I fear that what we've seen deployed against Donald Trump is now going to become normative
Yes.
if we move into a Harris Walls administration. Just as a read ahead, one of the things Jill led off this morning. We woke up. I'm rubbing the eyes. You say that this is joyful, and the first thing that comes at me is we really have to think about what the world is going to be like under a Harris Walls administration when they win. And I'm like, oh God, I need a coffee. But that's
Well,
the nature of
yeah,
my life.
yeah, and in that vein, you've got a big event called Rescue the Republic. You want to talk about this a little
Thanks.
bit? A lot of really great speakers that are involved in this.
Thanks for mentioning it. And Brett Weinstein gets the gold star really for being a driving force here. This is a kind of a derivative of the Stop the Mandates protest that was
Right.
so seminal, the first major protest in DC after January 6th. And a lot of people were scared silly, and some people, unnamed, would not even attend because they were afraid we were all going to get thrown in jail. It does seem like the organizers are lining up quite a roster.
Yes.
Russell Brand will be there.
Yes.
Bobby is
Hmm.
anticipated to be there. Pierre Corey and I are supposed to introduce Bobby, but there are some other speakers anticipated that are not being disclosed that are high profile political actors. And the goal here is a nonpartisan one. It's kind of the heal the divide message uh, of can't we, not to trivialize it, can't we all get along?
Right.
There's some things that we all of us should be able to agree on. That's
Hmm.
probably not the case, but in theory, if for instance, if the United States is going to persevere as a sovereign nation, which is debatable now
Right.
with this new structure,
Right.
uh, then we should have some common commitment to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the underlying principles. Hopefully, we have some commitments as a collective community to fundamental Judeo-Christian ethics.
Hmm.
It is capturing people from all over the world that are going to be speaking there, and I'm committed to doing whatever I can to help support it. And we need all of your viewers
Mm.
and really all of us that are committed to a future together, moving
Right.
forward together, to build a better tomorrow for our children.
That's beautifully
Uh,
said. Doctor, we know how busy you are. We're so grateful that you've spent this time with us. Before you go, though, I just want to highlight for our reading list two of your books. Obviously, Lies My Government Told Me and The Better Future Coming is a best-selling book. Many people know about it. Your new book, Psywar, we can look forward to the October release of Psywar. Is this book that we've been talking about with Dr. Robert Malone that he's written with his wife, Jill. And I'm pleased to say, I learned today it's going to be available also in audio form, and that Dr.
yep.
Malone is narrated the book. I love it when authors do this with their own books. And I tend to buy the hard copy and read that, and then also listen to the book because I get a different perspective when I hear the author actually read it.
I apologize. As I read the darn thing, it took hours and hours and hours. I, I, I had to encounter all the typos. I'm rather embarrassed by the typos that are in there. But I corrected them in the audio form. So in many ways, the audio book is better than the written one, but
There
don't
you
tell the
go.
public.
And you get all the phrasing. Well, Dr. Malone, thank you so much for being with us. And also thank your wife, Jill. we didn't get to meet her this time. Perhaps the next time that we get together, we could have her on to talk about your next book. But for
I'd
right
love that.
now, I want to wish you much continued success with the book. I know it'll be a bestseller. And again, just thank you for spending the time with us so we could learn more about this important work that you're doing.
Thanks for having me on, and keep the faith.
Thank you, sir.